Hey, what's up, Street Dogs? There, coming from there, Street Photography blog. So I just want to share with you some practical thoughts on how to make money from photography. So this is an elusive question that's always fascinated me because in photography, you know, there's so many questions I had when I started photography because like photography is my passion and I wanted to make it my living, blah, blah. But truth be told, I didn't actually think it was possible to make a living from photography. I thought it would just be something that's like out of my grasp, or I just thought the economics wasn't possible. But yet, nearly a decade later, and I'm still here, and you know, got racks in the safe now. I'm kind of curious, like, how can I give some sort of ideas or feedback in which I could actually help other photographers make money from photography? So let me just kind of jump into it. So first and foremost, I think in order to make money from photography, you need to build your own platform. So building your own platform means creating a website with your own domain, ideally firstname.lastname.com. You could use a host like bluehost.com or 101.com. And I would encourage you to create a wordpress.org blog website. It's essentially the same thing. And the nice thing is that if you want to control the things that you create and you want to scale it up, WordPress.org is the open source framework which will allow you to do that. And down the road, you can start to incorporate things like WooCommerce, which is like the e-commerce plugin, which will allow you to create, you know, a digital shop for your goods. And I would have to say, it's so funny because I've seen so many social medias come and go, and you remember Flickr and stuff like that. But still, my blog, I started in like 2010, it's 2020 now. Holy moly, it's like it's a decade. My blog is still running strong, and it's great because I'm able to update my themes. I have so much more flexibility, and I'm like a 6,000 posts deep, and I'm still going. And so the importance of owning your own platform is that, you know, not only will you get your website indexed by Google, but you just end up just having more creative freedom. You just end up getting, you're not getting suckered. So for example, if you only build your following on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook could just tweak the algorithm just like this little much, or Instagram, whatever, and bada bing, bada boom, you're kind of fucked. And I've actually found this with YouTube too, is that like, you know, YouTube's always changed the algorithm. So like, you know, I don't get as many views as I used to, whatever, but I don't really care. I'm actually starting to self-host my videos now on my own blog. I use the WordPress.com Jetpack plugin. And this way, you know, I could download my content and it actually lives on a little bit better. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to become a digital sharecropper. So what a digital sharecropper is that it's an individual who builds his own value on someone else's land. So back in the days of like, you know, kind of like post-slavery in America, you know, poor farmers were given the opportunity. She's like, oh, you know, you just have this little plot of land and, you know, it belongs to you, blah, blah. But essentially, there were still kind of slaves to the land, and the landowners took care of them. And it's kind of like, the way I see it is that like Facebook, who owns Instagram, it's kind of like a digital colonialism, is that you don't want to sleep in bed with the colonizer, essentially, because you're just going to have less freedom down the end. So that's the first thing, is own your own platform. The second piece of advice I would give you is either give away your stuff for free or make it really expensive. So even creative strategies in terms of pricing is the barbell strategy. So you either give it for free, not give away 99% of your stuff for free, but 1% of it, charge lots of money for it. So whether it be teaching workshops or doing consulting, or whether creating products, like even, for example, for me, there's a reason I actually don't put any ads on YouTube, because first of all, I think they're annoying as hell. And secondly, you know, it's better for me to get my message out there unobstructed to you. And, you know, hopefully you watch more of these videos like, oh, I like this Eric Kim guy, you know, there's some sort of blog, you go to the blog and you follow me, end up maybe one day you come to one of my workshops or you buy one of my products at heptechindustries.com. And so it's a much smarter strategy because, you know, you cannot beat the price of free. And if you give away stuff for free, it's essentially, it's free marketing. And not only that, but you'll spread your name, your worth, your values. And a lot of people don't like to buy stuff on the internet, especially if it's not Amazon. So it takes a long time for you to build trust with people. And so by giving away things for free, being honest, you build some sort of connection and trust with your audience. And truth be told, you don't need millions or quadrillions of people to make a living from photography or to even make money from photography. Like there's this notion of like 1,000 true fans. Honestly, if you just have like build up your platform enough that you have like 1,000 people somewhere in the world who really, really love you and what you admire what you do, you're going to be able to make a pretty good living from your passion, which I assume is photography. And not only that, but I think one of the most important things in photography is that you don't want to compete with other people. So it's good to start from a very, very small niche, which you feel like is underexploited, and then kind of branch outward. So for example, when I started street photography, there wasn't really any other street photography blogs or YouTube channels and stuff like that. And so, when I started, it was a very small niche and I just kept working at it. And over time, I was able to dominate the niche. And now, everyone knows who Eric Kim is. And the good thing is now, there's a lot of people doing street photography stuff. So, I'm like super duper happy about that. And I'm kind of like Jay-Z. I'm like on to the next one. So what is the next one? I'm really interested in talking more about like photography entrepreneurship is, building your values, building your own platform, and even making money from it. And ultimately, you don't gotta make money from photography, but if your goal is to become self-employed and to gain more freedom of your life, self-employment and making money from photography, your passion, seems like the way to go. So I would encourage you, whatever genre of photography you want to do, start as small as humanly possible and then expand it as time goes on. And it's tricky too, because you don't want to enter a field that's already saturated with too many peoples. You want to try to be clever and choose a certain angle or make it more and more niche or more specific. So in order for you to dominate that niche. So for example, let's say you want to get into street photography. Now there's a lot of street photographers, but maybe you could focus on Android phone photographers who shoot street photography, or iPhone street photography, or film street photography, or digital medium format photography, or 4K video street photography, whatever it may be. You essentially need to become more and more specific into a tiny genre and then seek to dominate that genre and then just kind of spread outwards. And I do find that having a YouTube channel is super useful in the sense that, once again, it's good marketing for you, it's free content, and YouTube, after Google, is probably the world's biggest search engine. And so people searching for certain keywords, and it's like super basic, right? Like let's say, I'm doing this thing on photography entrepreneurship or how to make money from photography. I'm just going to put that in the title, right? So, and then generally also, if you want to get your stuff to become more viral, just follow the format of BuzzFeed, right? It's like, you wouldn't believe these 10 tips to become rich in photography and make money from photography. And so I think, this sounds bad, right? It's better to create like a clickbaity title and get people to click on it, but make sure once people click on it and they come to your website or your blog or your YouTube channel, whatever, really actually put your heart and soul into what you write about. So I did that blog post. I was just like, I was kind of curious because like the other day I was like, a lot of people are criticizing BuzzFeed, blah, blah. But BuzzFeed, I think it's pretty cool and they have good titles. So I was like, okay, today I was thinking, what if I could create the ultimate like kind of BuzzFeed, clickbaity title? So it was like 10 rich tips to make money through photography. And I actually spent like a lot of time to write this thing out, and I tried to be as honest and actually try to make it deep and philosophical, and it actually ended up being a lot of fun for me. And so knowing how to make good titles is actually really, really important. I mean, a quick tip is think, what kind of title could you make that you would personally click on? And now that's going to be different for everybody. Everyone's got different tastes. Follow your own taste, follow your own gut, and essentially create content or create information or create substantive things that you yourself would be interested in. So once again, 10 years ago, if I knew these secrets to make money through photography, I'd be so interested in this, right? Some other tips on how to make money through photography: promote yourself as much as possible. If you don't promote yourself, nobody is. There's this myth that, you just create great stuff and then people come at you and start throwing at money. No. Even Steve Jobs, when he created Apple, he knew that they needed to have great products, but they also needed to have great marketing. So Steve Jobs probably spent as much time focusing on marketing as he did creating great products. And so to study great marketing, essentially it's just like what works for me is that I'm like, as an American, I'm a sucker for consumerism and things. Just kind of like think about your own personal biases, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and essentially just kind of follow your gut. And also, I think it is useful. Like when I started, I read a lot of business books on marketing and stuff like that. But actually, probably more interesting than that is there's one book I like. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. So there's simple concepts like, framing. It's better to frame a super, super high price and then offer something a little bit lower. People usually buy that more. And just understand that there are certain like kind of pricing strategies. Generally, companies like just study companies that do it pretty good. So like Apple does it pretty good, Tesla does it pretty good, and generally I find that luxury companies are probably the way of the future. Is in the future it's probably going to be all like cheap, made in China Amazon stuff, or super high end luxury, stuff like that. So even nowadays you see phones are getting so expensive. It's like you either get $1,000 iPhone, or you get like $100 cheap rando Android smartphone, or like, even with cameras, you're gonna just either shoot with your iPhone or, end up buying like a $5,000, $7,000 Leica, whatever it may be. So just kind of realize times are changing, but it's a really exciting time for us photographers. And I do think that if you want to become rich from photography and make a lot of money, the goal is for you to really be smart about things and price higher. When in doubt, price higher.